Talking before the rules are open.
Hello, my name is Netta Toshikori. Today is October 7th, and we are doing the Land Use Zoning and Economic Development Committee. It is 6:04. And I think we are ready to go, right?
Good morning, we're ready. Thank you, Netta.
Great. We have a rather short agenda tonight. We're going to be discussing the capital and expense budget for the upcoming year. There are some handouts printed here, which has some of the suggestions and reason for asking and the response that we have gotten, which we can review. I don't know if there are additional items that the committee members would like to bring up as items to propose for request budget for.
I don't know if everybody should have gotten the links from by email already for all the board members.
And do we have any public signed in?
We do have one member of the public signed in. Yes, indeed.
So we'll go around to committee members first.
Apologies. Okay. So you want to go through one by one?
Sure. We go through,
Do it. Start at the top.
first item is the study of land use as zoning to better match current uses of neighborhood's character. The reason is fund this study to create zoning requirements for cold waste storage rooms in newly constructed buildings, as well as enlargements and conversions.
So basically, we want to keep the garbage off the sidewalks.
And the agencies.
Sorry, Dana. Hi, it's Alice. I'm sorry. Is there any way to put it up on the screen or no? I can't, I'm trying to pull it up right now, but just wondered. Thanks.
The agency requires additional information from the community board regarding this request. So I guess this is one of the ones that we need to be more specific about what our ask is from them.
So is sanitation involved with this request?
No, because it has to do with the zoning.
Right, but if they're not on board with the idea of internal storage,
So has anybody contacted DCP's borough office to discuss?
Can follow it.
I mean, I don't think it's very controversial. Obviously, we don't want it on the sidewalks,
Right.
unless there's any other conversation about it.
No, we would leave it there.
All right,
Next.
next one, as needed, land use planning, technical and urban design support. Reason, staff, the community boards and land use consultants to work directly for and with the community board staff and volunteers. The response is that the Department of City Planning cannot provide enhanced community board funding or staffing, but our borough office has dedicated staff assigned to work with your board on planning matters and priorities. DCP supports planning for housing production and affordability, economic development, resilient and sustainable communities.
But again, why are we going to city planning for this? Wouldn't it come from the office that oversees the community boards?
So what we want is land use consultants or that the city should pay for to staff at community boards.
Right, which one is consultants? In this case, it can be land use, it could be any.
We're specifically asking for land use
Right,
and urban design. but it's out of DCP's jurisdiction pending
Right.
further review.
I mean, DCP doesn't want to give priority to funding this request. And, you know, in a sense, it's working against DCP.
The community board could use the funds that they get from street fairs to hypothetically hire a part-time worker for this position, and I would recommend that we explore that possibility.
So we can still vote to take it off.
But don't we still want to have it on this list? Isn't it important to put the need on here? A lot of people look at the need statements.
So I think the question is, if, and again, I'm gonna go to our chair of the committee and say, if we want to leave it on, is it coded to the right agency, or should this ask be coded to a different agency? So we take this ask and say, it doesn't go to DCP, it should go to
School content.
the borough president.
I would think the borough president.
Good idea.
Okay.
How have we funded this before?
We had, you know, it was a very different thing in 2024 than it was when we first started in 15 or 16 with Michael Levine. Economies of scale, salaries and everything else have grown for the hires. But the budgets for the community boards have not kept pace. So the monies that we had back then, 8 years ago to 10 years ago, we don't have enough in the regular city budget that we have to support a part-time person as a full-time sort of staff member.
Mhm.
But we are looking at the opportunities. Yes, we can use street fair funds, and that's great for us, but not every single board has street fair funds.
Right.
And every single board is put under the same duress.
Well, like the George, so this is different than George Jane's, right? This is,
George, you'd still need, even, we had George who worked with us even when we had Diana and Michael.
Mhm.
And there's only so much you can do in a business day, and there are
Right.
days. So, you know, we had used for research and detail, someone like George, for example, for the Trust for Governor's Island, for the zoning text amendments that were made for there,
And how was he funded?
through our street fair funds. Whereas Diana was on payroll.
Right.
Do you think we would get more attention if we prioritized it as number 33 rather than 53?
That's a good question.
Wait, prioritize it as, what did you say?
Just swap the numbers, make it priority 33 to show how important it is.
Yeah. Hmm.
Is there a gap between 53 and 33?
Well, all the numbers will get done differently.
Well, it's different agencies. We're asking DCP to study the cold waste storage,
Right.
and we're asking the borough president to come up with some money.
But we can look at the swap on it in between the two items, simply because I know, transportation got slashed like half a dozen.
Yeah, I'm just saying, let's give it a higher priority, that's all.
Okay, can we go to number 54?
Absolutely.
Other business regulatory assistance requests. Study for tax breaks and creating small business incentive zones within CB1. Requires additional information. The agency requires additional information from the community for requiring this request. So,
So we had talked about this in committee a while back, creating a zone, especially because we have so much vacant storefront. That was a area that did, you know, tax breaks and creating small business incentives because we had so many open storefronts. don't think that that retail vacancy has changed much, but I think it maybe we could have a discussion with DCP, have them come in and talk about it, or have SBS come in.
We're talking about SBS here,
Right,
and why not add a sentence in terms of the reason? Because there's so many, so much vacant right, in the zone.
Alice, your hands up.
Yeah, yeah, this one doesn't get my vote, like anything with the tax break these days doesn't really, to me, seem logical. I think this was written during a period of COVID that I'm not sure is something that is a priority necessarily, but maybe it's a study for, maybe not a tax break, but for mechanisms. If you're still thinking this is critical, I wouldn't mind seeing the data on this before I put this as a community board request. But I would be more interested in getting from DCP a study for mechanisms, for example, on funding for public housing, affordable housing, and specifically public funding, like something like that, I think would be really great.
So that's,
It's separate.
Separate, I know, added to it. I just figured I had the mic, I would do both. But in other words, I think this one, maybe I take out the word tax break, I would move it further down. This is personal, so obviously something the whole committee has to think about, but I don't know where the data is that supports this this concept right now. I think we should have that before we have that ask. But I do know one that we do feel strongly about, which is affordable housing. And I think the one thing that's missing from the city of Yes that we should be getting, frankly, every board should get, is a study for the mechanism that would identify potential ways to get public funding of housing in CB1.
so there was,
I don't know if anyone agrees with that, but anyway, those are the two thoughts.
this was in our budgets for this year. It's been in our budget since coming out of COVID, I think, for the last couple of years. It is, in part and parcel based on the vacancy rates that are widely reported. Retail, both, from New York City and the Downtown Alliance. So the data is there, and we can certainly have Josh, if you want, share that back with you. But if Netta says it's okay, what I did was study for tax rates and or incentives and creating a small business incentive zone to help reduce storefront vacancies. And that stays with SBS. It's not a DCP, it's an SBS.
You don't want to use the word just incentives. You want to have tax breaks there as one of the identified mechanisms. That was my main objection, but
Yeah, and you want storefronts that already exist to be able to continue.
I couldn't hear you, Michael. Did you say something? What?
You want storefronts that already exist to stay in place. So that's another, part of the incentives.
Right.
It says and or, so there's flexibility.
And how about the other suggestion?
The other suggestion goes through HPD, which is the Affordable Housing Division of New York City. And that, we can certainly put that in here, but I think that is under economic development. I thought that was quality of life. Doesn't mean that we can't,
Affordable housing
should be everywhere.
everywhere, exactly.
Yeah, I think we need the public funding, and I think DCP should take responsibility in part for this kind of study. I mean, that they are implementing the city of Yes with, their ideas of how to make, more housing out there. So this seems in their purview, but whatever, just a thought.
So what adding?
What are you adding? A study for what? This isn't that what the city of Yes is supposed to have done?
For mechanisms for public funding for increased affordable housing in New York, or some such thing.
The whole zoning amendments that they did with City of Yes, at least the slogan was that they are increasing the affordable housing in these areas incrementally, but that was one of the reason.
I know that's the
we
whole
were-
point of it, but doesn't really get to specific locations.
Yeah.
Or
We're not gonna get something that's.
Talking about public funding, state, federal funding programs that we could tap into. I'm sorry, I have a really hard time hearing, so I'm sorry if I'm repeating stuff.
Any chance of getting more money for a 5 World Trade Center to get some more affordable units? Just something that directly affects us?
We got nothing more than the 130 million that we're still trying to land,
Well, the point is, there's no city money in it,
5 million.
so we want more.
What I really want is a piece of the, Battery Park City Special Purpose Fund, the 800 million. That's what I want.
It's gone up a 100 million a year. basically.
100 million a year. We could get 10% of that. That'd be nice. If 20%. Anywhere,
But that's
anywhere.
a state agency. We're doing the city
It's
budget.
actually city and, I think it's the
I
city
don't
that,
think it's city.
it's a combination of state and city.
Yeah.
Combination of state and
So, I
city.
mean, that's,
What we don't know is how the money's allocated, who has decision-making authority. I've been trying to find that out and I haven't been able to find that out.
right, but I think we should make it District 1 specific.
That's what I'm
And,
saying.
and what I'm suggesting is that 5 World Trade Center is the most obvious target where that money could go.
I'd like to find other targets. Let me tell you this, there's almost zero chance. Someone that's worked on it for 3+ years, there's zero chance of any more money coming. I know my rest of the team would argue with me, but that's my view.
But there's no other, site that's available down here.
Who says that?
Who says that?
Who says that?
That's not
That's one of
necessarily,
the things I'd like to study.
that's not necessarily true
Vacancies
because
that
with
are option.
commercial buildings changing to residential, there are. And we're very curious as to the last BSA that we all said yes to last month. What's gonna happen to that building? That beautiful building that the Department of Aging is moving out of. They're leaving.
So my only point is, let's look to the source, which would be Battery Park's city authority. And let's try to apply it to a district-wide problem. If that problem is the conversion of office to residential and creating affordable units, maybe we say that.
Well, that's one possible.
Because I think
Certainly,
that's the most winning, campaign we could have.
To get the data on empty buildings or unoccupied buildings and the potential of them being converted to resi.
Residential, to affordable residential using Battery Park City Authority funding.
I think that's a very good and important target, but I don't want to restrict it to just that.
How about HPD to provide a study on all available methods and plans for federal, state, city funds to be allocated to affordable housing and CD fund?
Right, and you can include, just the reference, include the conversion. From
Office to
from
residential
to residential.
version, and don't forget Battery Park City in that list.
That's good.
Can I ask a question about can I ask a couple of questions?
Yes, sure.
Okay. One thing that's occurring to me about the conversions is, those landlords were probably members of the Downtown Alliance, right? Like they were paying dues to that organization as like commercial real estate, and now some of those are switching to residential. And then does the Alliance have any, I know they do a lot for the businesses, but I'm wondering, they haven't done that much for open space and for the kind of residential population of Lower Manhattan. And I'm wondering if there's any leverage we have there since their landlords are converting the properties. And
Spoke about it, Laura, at the board meeting last week. They talked about that they're losing 7 quote unquote clients or tenants to residential conversions. And
Right.
and there was nothing said about anything that they were grateful for the partners that they had over all the years and wished them well. And it, talked about the changing nature of, Lower Manhattan. That was it.
But
Tammy. Oh.
maybe we need to take more action on this because, with the residential units coming online, I mean, we really need a mechanism to capture some of the revenue for the open spaces, for all these new parks that we have and for the battery and, for our streets and the garbage, like all these issues we're talking about, when the Alliance, when it was commercial real estate, they were the kind of, they were like the parallel organization to the government to make sure that there was quality of life for the businesses down here. And now we need to make sure that a similar standard and mechanism is there for the residents and for the community as there's more residents. I mean, do you think it's worth talking to some people on their board about this? Or some of the commercial landlords? So the people who are flipping those buildings, like the one at Broad and Water?
There are 7 buildings total. We had school seat availability, which is one of the, key tools to look at. It's undetermined as to what kind of market that these will be. Most likely, they are market rate rentals. So it may not necessarily affect the infrastructure in terms of schools. In fact, it's far less people on the street than an office building that has thousands, hundreds and thousands of people who work in it versus a residential building. It's far less foot traffic and far less.
How about trash?
That's
Right.
already.
All right. Well, okay, so I still think whatever, it's not a budget item, but I think it might be worth a conversation with the Alliance. But my other question is about the business study for breaks or incentives for creating small business incentive zone. I mean, is that realistic? I mean, I'm just thinking like if we had that, could we have kept King's Pharmacy in Tribeca? Could we have kept more restaurants? Could we? I mean,
Essentially, that's what San Francisco did at one point, coming out of a slump. They incentivized small business zones to help retain small businesses in the neighborhood. I mean, it's a way to be able to balance the needs because there's so much foreign ownership. There aren't a lot of people who have, yeah, and there aren't a lot of people who seem to care if the stuff is rented or not.
well, that's for sure. Okay. Well, those are my questions. Thank
That's
you.
why I think we could definitely have somebody come and do a proposal. We can always say yes or no. But it'd be great to have some ideas on how to keep small business.
Yeah, it would be fantastic. Yeah, it would be fantastic.
All right.
I have my hand up.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, hi. So I just want to confirm, were you saying that with all the conversions, from commercial to residential, we're having less foot traffic? And that's why, we're having less interest in small, businesses?
We'd like a study on that, don't you think?
Well, I think you're right. But one of the big problems that we have when I'm working on developing these large towers is that it's really hard for small businesses to approach SL Green or related and say, well, gee, can I have 1,200 square feet for my shoe shop? And that is what the problem is, right? We have a system down here that is so large and cumbersome that small business owners just don't even have a chance. And of course, we need so much of support for daily life downtown. But I just want to confirm, you're not saying like residential does not take away the commercial component on ground floor,
So,
right?
that's-
Yeah.
so,
So the rental areas are still there. It's just that they're managed by very large companies that don't want to deal with small mom and pop shops that we need so desperately. I was just commenting.
Well, I think the rents are so high is the issue. They just get priced out.
Agreed. Yes, of course. You're absolutely right. They've made it difficult to rent small places because, like, again, I know for a fact they go, well, who are we gonna, where are we gonna find Compass to rent us this space? And the prices are astronomical per square foot. You're absolutely right.
I think when you take a look and you have the large restaurateurs like Mark Forgione, who had a beautiful place, committed to reopening after the pandemic, and then flat out said could not afford the rents in Tribeca and closed a restaurant that was award-winning, that says a lot.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Yeah,
Even he can survive.
yeah, because there's only so many ways that you can increase the rent. And you can't, I mean, you're not charging $200 for a steak, so it's economies of scale. If we don't do something, then we won't have a way to retain any small businesses.
but these large developers, if they're converting, right, they, having some of those moms and pop shops would actually make their tenants happier. As
Of
opposed to
course, yeah, but they don't take that into consideration. It's a lot easier to rent 3 floors to Marshalls because they'll even take the cellar and the basement than to have, 7 smaller. I've encountered this before and it's terrible because then you just get, these large stores that we don't need at all. And I'm not talking about Marshalls. But that's a bigger conversation than us on the board, right? It's like our political and economic system. And it's awful because all the good stuff is going. And if you want to get a hair dryer, go ahead, go find one.
I mean, Downtown Alliance obviously does their reports for the second quarter of 2024. 14 retail establishments opened, 13 of them were F&B businesses.
And I mean, if you look at National Restaurant Association, it says that in New York City, 50% of restaurants close within 3 years, 80% within 5. It's very hard to make it in New York City in a restaurant.
Yeah, the margins are really bad.
So it will be, I just,
The chief with the restaurant.
yeah. I mean, even more than restaurants, you can't get any kind of a small business to stay. It's very, very difficult these days down here.
Yeah, there's, 2 hardware stores with the, now, at this point, it's.
Yeah. We used to have like 5.
Right,
Good luck finding a shoe shine.
right.
Okay, is there anything else?
for the item that we're gonna have, I think we are.
You didn't get to the South Street Seaport
Yeah.
air rights?
We have one more for that.
I'm sorry, Tammy, just to add, sorry, guys. If we could get, our elected officials to make a law where we mandate that landlords, have to, make available and then procure a certain amount of small businesses. That is the only way to do it. Unless I said you make it a law, there is no incentive for them to do it otherwise. But I don't know why we can't ask for that.
Yeah.
Everybody needs to have 3 or 4, 12 or 1,500 square foot establishments and leave it as whatever you want. You can subdivide it yourselves, but something like that.
That, I think we would, sounds to me like a discussion with a legislator and policy
Yeah, I know.
for a resolution. No, I mean, yeah,
Yeah, because otherwise there's no way. I've had this conversation with clients before, and like I said, it's much easier to get Marshalls on 3 floors. Mandating or somehow incentivizing or demanding is the only way to go. Before this gets out of hand, you all recall me saying 4 years ago that rentals, even for single professionals, is impossible. And look at us now, 4 years later. It's not that you didn't believe me, but it's really becoming evident. If we sit on this thing for another couple of years, there won't be a single small mom and pop shop. There won't be a pharmacy in sight. And I think our Express Lane Pharmacy is a treasure in Fidei.
well, I think that's, you know, I think that's been a local outcry. I mean, there's been a local outcry, and, you know, Battery Park City suffered because they had 2 pharmacies closed, and the one that they have left open is so overwhelmed it can barely
Yeah.
function.
All right. So I'm saying that we should maybe be, loud and pushy now, because in 4 years, when it's all gone, it'll be very hard to reverse and then and incentivize small businesses to come back.
So maybe that's an.
I think maybe all these conversions that are gonna go on, they're gonna come in front of the board, right? I mean, they're not,
Convert as of right. But I do think.
Oh, yeah. So they're not coming.
to me, if the whole neighborhood is being converted, or we are bringing more residences, I don't think they're going to be able to rent units with a 3-story high Marshalls in there, because no one is going to wanna live on top of it. As opposed to having smaller coffee shops or restaurants, that is mutually beneficial, both for the neighborhood and for the tenants they're going to affect.
Yeah.
So
So let me ask you, are you saying that these conversions are rentals or are they co-op condo?
We
I
don't,
do not know.
we do not know, they do it as of right.
Oh, because if they're a rental, right, then there is some skin in the game, because you're gonna have to rent and you will have to continue to renting. But co-op and condos, frequently when I raise these issues, the owners go, I don't care, I'll be gone in a few years. Once the co-op board or condo board takes ownership, I don't care what they do with the commercial space. So it's very hard to have them have long-term vision, because they leave right after they sell the majority.
Okay, so am I hearing correctly that we want SB, not included in, beyond the budget line that we have in here, we want SBS to come and talk about opportunities and maybe have our legislative staff?
Yeah, and what,
Yes.
I mean, there was an attempt to get commercial rent control, I forget the exact.
Stabilization.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, but Chris has been supporting that.
Yeah,
Bring it in, talk about it.
okay.
the last one item, right? So study land use and zoning to better match current uses or neighborhood character. The request reason DCP should review development rights transfer zoning at the South Street Seaport Historic District, including an update and search for alternative receiving sites outside of the historic district.
So this is a big problem because the city of Yes allows almost uncontrolled transfer of air rights. Before it was contiguous, you could cross the street, all that kind of stuff. I think this should be addressed to LBC rather than to DCP. Because what we're talking about is how to protect the historic district. And as long as it doesn't affect the historic district, there's nobody, the city of Yes prevails.
Got it.
I thought there was.
No, you can, I mean, in landmarks, if landmarks should choose the design to be appropriate, you can just keep adding on and there's no FAR and there's no zoning that holds. That's where you can transfer the air rights. Just pile them up.
The historic district itself at Seaport,
The historic district has all sorts of rules, but landmarks has to enforce them. So we need to address this to landmarks.
so what are we asking, that this goes through LPC review? Because it already, I thought everything was through LPC review.
We want historic districts to be, we want landmarks to study the impact of transfers of air rights. And it's not only site specific to the South Street Seaport, you have a lot of historic districts down here.
So maybe it's LPC and DCP should
Well,
review.
DCP is gonna come up with the mechanism, but landmarks has to say it's appropriate, and we need them to study it, because basically, depending on who gives money to the mayor, it becomes appropriate.
Sure. So. I can share screen and you guys tell me what you want to do.
Do we have a document that shows how many sites have this, how much air rights they have and they can transfer?
Within the historic district, we do, within the Seaport Historic District.
But I think this is something I was thinking about also, but not in terms of just Seaport, but in terms of our other landmark buildings here. DP. What would the effect of the city of Yes have on those landmarks and surrounding?
Well, you have the additional protection of a historic district.
The last time.
You see what I'm not,
You see, we don't.
no.
But the building,
As a separate or
if the
additional.
building is designated as a landmark.
Yeah,
Down here, in almost all cases, it's located in a historic district.
yeah, I'm disputing that. I'm just saying, in addition to that, we could look at our historic buildings outside of that, our landmark buildings rather, landmark locations, and see what the impact of the city of Yes could be on that.
It's basically, we're saying the same thing.
Just, I'm extending it to the rest.
The only point I would make is that we don't know that there is a city of Yes, because
No,
they, you know,
we
we'll
don't.
know by the end of the year, but we could be lucky. But it definitely is a landmarks issue. It's not a DCP issue.
And I. You read that.
A position review potential impacts of remaining development rights transfer zones at the South Street Seaport Historic District, including an update and search for alternative receiving sites outside, now I have my glasses, outside of the historic district.
Right?
Well, it's, I mean, I'm not gonna complain about it helping the Seaport, but it should help all the historic districts.
Everything within maybe historic district and all historic
Landmark
built
buildings.
landmark.
Landmark buildings.
So if they are transferring the air rights, they're transferring to an adjacent or further site. So hopefully the buildings themselves are gonna stay untouched.
Well, I mean,
In theory, yes, they would stay. I mean,
there should be precedents that we have now with Pier 40, where these air rights have just been created out of thin air, and now they're being transferred to import. We know all the ghost piers will have air rights. And if they have air rights, you know, who knows what's going to be, you know, created.
Post piers, that's really interesting. We have those over here.
We have one on the west side, of course.
But that's something we can find out. They have air rights, right? The,
Well, it needs to be clarified. I mean, a clever developer will go to great lengths.
Should that be a separate ask?
It's totally unrelated.
Well, in
Historic.
terms of city planning, I would love to study the concept that there are air rights above piers or former piers.
Does the committee think?
I think that's super interesting. We should study it. And that, I think there was the website that a gentleman from DCP introduced us to, was it Zola, that you could go and
Yes.
you could see if they have any air rights or if it's used, can it be transferred? Should we ask from DCP for a presentation on it, or we can just look at it independently?
Study for potential air rights stemming from
Current piers and ghost piers
current
within
abandoned.
the community board one. I mean, you know, we used to have what, 40 different piers downtown, ringing the whole tip.
Those-
And a good example of that is Pier 14 on the east side, which used to be the tennis courts, the tennis bubbles. And they decided that they were gonna transfer the development rights to expand the walkway between the Battery Maritime Building and Pier 7. So that's how they got the overhang over the water, by transferring the development rights from Pier 14. So Pier 14 can't be rebuilt.
But does it-
It's. Does that look right?
Ghosties.
Are you saying that the air rights from the piers would be transferred to upland properties, correct?
Yeah, that's what happened in Ward 2, from Pier 40 to the St. John's Building. Is now the Google Building.
So are you
And that's
saying
what-
then that like the air rights might transfer to a building that was being converted and they could add more floors and like where would that?
It increases the FAR, obviously, and it's really, you know, something that's almost discretionary on the part of city planning. They can just create air rights over the water.
But you're not suggesting to build this housing on the water.
I'm not suggesting anything. I'm suggesting that we study the impact of what I would consider to be unknown air rights upon our district.
And I think it'd be really good to publicly understand that information, because I don't know anybody who actually knows it, and I could very well see with the new building for the pump house that they're looking to put, with the new resiliency project, where are they building that, where are the air rights coming from? There's been no discussion on that in any of the resiliency plans that have come forward, and yet they are talking about.
I mean, the Coast Guard site would be a good example of someplace that could accommodate air rights at some point.
That's
Wait,
right.
but what do you, but when you say accommodate air rights, do you mean could have a tall building or do you mean could offload air rights to some upland parcel?
Both.
Yes.
Well, wait. Well, I don't agree that there should be a tall building on the Coast Guard site. I agree that its air rights could transfer, but I think the waterfront needs to be kept as a sacred green belt.
Agreed, but we won't know.
We're not talking about receiving sites right now, we're just talking about transmitting sites.
We're kind of understanding what's available and what's,
That's all, we're just studying, you know.
Okay, I just think we need to be really clear about the language, and then I think, you know, like, I think maybe the more of the challenge in Lower Manhattan is the receiving sites.
So Laura, how would you like to redo the language in here? What language do you suggest? Take a look, it's up on the screen.
I'm looking.
maybe we can do the air rights that are sites that have air rights remaining as one part of the study and sites that could potentially receive the air rights.
Well, just hypothetically with the people on this call, like where do you, okay, we have like the historic neighborhoods, right? Like you're not gonna build taller in the Seaport or in landmark parts of Tribeca. And so I'm just doing a reality check. I'm really curious. I'm just trying to see where the logic of it, I'm not disagreeing with it, but I'm just trying to figure out a test case of, you know, I guess the question is there another like site like the Frank Gehry building site, you know, like to build a tower like that? That's what I guess that's what I'm asking.
I think you're asking two
Maybe at
questions.
John and
First
Nassau,
question-
that empty site,
Right.
that could become a monster.
Okay. No, I was just curious, that's all, like where there's still sites. I don't know, I haven't done a study of it.
So the question becomes, how far can the air rights be transmitted? And is it only 2 blocks inward, inboard as it is with the Hudson River Park? Or is it even further? And these are all questions that are really unknown. So it's really up to the discretion of whoever's in charge of city planning and whoever the mayor is. And so I think that's an important, you know, thing to try to nail down.
Well,
Because
is there a way to just then or what we're asking for is to make a kind of larger air rights trading district out of Lower Manhattan, right? That instead of like removing the 2 block or whatever the rule is, but making it more kind of district
right,
wide.
in some places it's half a mile. In some places it has to be within the community district. So there's a lot of different rules in different places on air rights. And I mean, my major point is that the city of Yes is going to loosen all this up. And really, that's going to be the controlling document. And we need to really study it.
There's also the potential that even though it's very costly, it could be a long-term federal project, federal, state, and local, to build on top of the Hewell Carey tunnel exits. It was studied by Pratt in 2019 or 2018 for schools. We are looking to build new schools, including looking at, you know, how to transform the campus that is the Coast Guard site. And there are lots of, you know, other areas that people could be looking for and clamoring to, depending on whether or not Battery Park underpass is extended and what gets built on top and around there. And what the streets look like over there, because the current iteration is for an extension of the tunnel all the way up to, I think that's what street that is over there. And, you know, the question is where are they building the water plant, pump house with?
But what are we trying to do here?
Just to understand.
So let's just get it down and.
Tell me if that looks right for you.
I mean, what I hear us saying that we want is like a district-wide study of the air rights to be traded out, to be dispensed, and enabling their recipients of those to be, you know, like in more places in the district, that the proximity to the donor is less stringent, right? That's what I'm hearing.
Yeah, we want to study the potential transmitting and receiving sites in our district.
Okay,
Yes, that's a good way
that's
to
good. That's a good way to put it.
agree.
I don't know that we wanna study specific sites though, why would we do that and not put that onus on the developers? Why should we spend money at doing that and,
DCP and LPC should tell us what's remaining because they're city-owned property.
I see what you're saying.
Piers.
I see what you're saying.
The
that's
piers,
weird,
it's,
right.
it's not, you know.
But the property that the rights are going to be transferred to would not be
That's
city-owned.
Right, that's my concern is where, I think it's easy to say, oh yeah, the piers, the historic buildings, blah, 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 but it's like,
Stop.
what?
I think the question starts to be to understand, are there any remaining air rights stemming from the current abandoned and ghost piers within CD1? And
Right.
if they exist, how far can they be transferred inland? And that's the important part, because what happened with Howard Hughes is they came back to us and told us, this is how the whole thing we've got. We've already figured out and worked out with city planning, here's where we're taking these number of air rights from here, from here, from here. We actually don't know where, from city-owned sites and the destruction of the piers, whether or not there's any air rights still out there. We should. We should know.
But
Versus
then-
having
then-
the developer come to us.
So then another question I have though is, why, wouldn't it be preferable to determine a district where air rights could be transferred, like, from a planning standpoint?
Yes,
It's almost like you wanna, like, the center of the island should be taller than the outskirts, right? And so it seems like if the air rights could be transferred to like a spine down the middle of the island, that would be
Yes.
preferable than saying 2 blocks away, and then suddenly we got these things popping up all over the place.
So that's where the city of Yes comes in. The city of Yes is redefining how and where air rights can be transferred.
Yeah,
And so
From landmarks.
from landmark,
From
right,
and
and
landmark, so.
then we're talking about piers, but okay, yeah.
Right, so instead of being reactive, we're being proactive right now. We're trying to find out where the problems could be, and then we have to deal with them.
Well, yeah, that would certainly be one way to handle it, is to look at what the worst case scenario would be, which is that if they could be transferred 2 blocks and then suddenly we have a ring of super tall buildings around the island with no sun in the middle, then, we got a problem. Yeah, sure.
And the deal making, that goes on within the city is they look at this as a cash cow. They've created air rights out of nothing. And suddenly they get $100 million from the developer of the St. John's Center. And it goes into the treasury, or it goes 40 million to the South Street Seaport Museum.
Well, ideally, something would be going to pay for these pump houses, for example, which are
Well,
to
if-
benefit everybody,
If it went to the treasury, but you never know what the deal's gonna be.
right?
So I think that's fine for this, but I would like to add other landmark buildings in CP1 to the same question.
Well, we know what the landmark buildings are, because those are documented.
The city, but we don't know what their air rights are, do we? And do we
I
know
think
how
you can-
far, where they would go under the city of Yes?
The city of Yes map, said it, they put that out in city of Yes. So they delineated what that would be. So that's in that legislation. What we don't know, and is unlookable, because you can't see how far something's built, is the abandoned and ghost piers. Because they don't exist anywhere as far as we know, but we do know up by Pier 40, surprise, there were air rights. So we just need to know if there's any surprises that we're gonna have here. Because we just don't.
Yeah, I don't mind, I'm not objecting to this.
Yeah,
Just saying, does it make sense to add or extend this? See what could happen to our other landmark buildings, benefits,
Well,
and
we could get our land use consultant to do that for us.
we could do that too.
yeah,
That was
because
my thought.
that's already, he did some of that for case study when we were looking at City of Yes.
Yeah.
And we should ask Connor to do it.
Yeah, it's just basically math.
Yeah, I think those are knowables because you can see what the FAR on those buildings are and what's left. But I think the unknowable is the surprise that we don't know. If they came back to us and said, there are no air rights once the pier is demolished, it's gone. I don't think that's right, because when we're talking about the new market site,
No, and if they're building
I'm
new,
fine with this, I'm fine.
and with
Move on.
coastal resiliency,
Move on.
if they're going into the water, maybe there's air rights there if they create new land.
yeah, it's a great question.
Seems like, it seems like if there was some sort of, educational growth, I mean, this is a great grad school thesis for somebody in parametric architecture, data, AI, all the rest, one app, and you got your.
But you want,
And the parameters.
but you do want a commitment from the city and how they're gonna treat it.
Right.
And this is a way of trying to get that kind of commitment.
Are there other elements besides those piers that could have air rights
That's what I'm
that we
saying.
can't see it?
Yeah, if they do landfill in relation to coastal resiliency, that could have air rights.
And so that you're saying that there's nothing on the laws right now that prevents
The books right now.
creating new air rights.
So they could potentially be a landfill, which has hundreds of thousands
And
of.
then to answer Richard's question, you know, once you can transfer it anywhere, everything becomes a soap site. You know, 430-story office buildings on Park Avenue are not as good as 80-story office buildings on Park Avenue.
Well, that's the nature of cities, you tear down and you build up, fortunately. Which is why I'm saying what we really need is more of a planning specific, like, where's the district to put the air rights into?
That's what I'm saying.
I don't know if there are air rights to start with, they need to tell us that.
We're not
Because
disagreeing with that, but we're saying that you need both.
Right. Well, and plus, we already know that the air rights can be created out of thin air, literally, so.
Right.
It's more of an issue of, it's an urban planning situation more than anything else. What do we want the city to look like in the future?
Right, and also, like, we spend a lot of time in these meetings not talking about where the air rights are coming from, but who's getting them and where and what the problem with that is. That's right, so so that's the reason to plan around that.
And for the record, you know, in the historic district with 250 water, it was very clear where the air rights were supposed to go. And they changed the rules so that that 250 water could become a receivership. So it's also the mayor and
Right, well. Right, but I mean, to your point earlier, if there were, no, I see your point, but I guess,
yeah, because it was under urban renewal, it was the Brooklyn
right,
Southeast Brooklyn Bridge Urban Renewal 1969 that specified exactly where it could be transmitted and where it could be received, and they just went right around it.
Exactly.
So Tammy, you mentioned above the tunnels, why would you wanna build above the tunnels across the water? Am I missing?
no, she's not saying across the water, she's saying the Battery underpass.
I see.
Or like or the Brooklyn Battery Tunnel, but like where it goes, dips down under 9A.
Yep. Brooklyn Battery Tunnel where the battery garage is right now.
Mhm.
Yeah, we actually proposed that to Howard Hughes,
Yep.
to the city, transfer them, you know, to Greenwich Avenue or whatever. it
Yep,
was.
Greenwich South,
Greenwich South.
because we were hoping to be able, I mean, that'd be a great Mitchell-Lama project right there. Be amazing,
Right, and you know, and wouldn't be bad to tie air rights with affordable housing.
correct. We tried to do in our city of yes resolution as well.
We're good?
We go home.
Perfect. So-
Dinner.
I think we are okay with it. How do we end the meeting? This is
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Great
great.
job. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Nada. Bye.
Thank you. Good night.